The Velthari whisper shuddered as it approached the invisible boundary that had confounded the Galactic Consortium for 3 centuries. Captain Nixara's crystalline features reflected the eerie glow of her navigation console, where the coordinates marked the edge of human space, a region no alien vessel had ever returned from. "Sensors detect nothing beyond the threshold," reported her tactical officer, Quendel, his forearms dancing across the controls with practiced efficiency. "No energy signatures, no defensive platforms, no warning beacons, just ... emptiness." Nick's membrane-thin wings fluttered with unease. As a Velthari explorer, she had pushed the boundaries of known space for over 2 centuries. Yet this region filled her with a primal dread that defied logic. The humans had vanished from galactic politics exactly 287 standard years ago, retreating behind an invisible wall that seemed to exist more in the collective consciousness than in physical reality. "Perhaps that's the point," she murmured, studying the readings. "What if the barrier isn't technological?" The bridge fell silent. Every species in the consortium had theories about human space. Some claimed it was protected by devastating weapons. Others believed the humans had transcended to another dimension. The Kefrani insisted it was cursed, while the logical Centaurians calculated that humans had simply died out, leaving behind automated defenses. None dared test these theories. "Captain," Quendel's voice carried an edge of concern. "The Consortium Council specifically ordered us to maintain a minimum distance of 5 light-years. Yes." Nixara's decision crystallized like ice forming on metal. "But we're explorers, not bureaucrats. The humans were once our allies, our trading partners. They shared their music, their stories, their laughter. Then one day they simply ... left. Don't you want to know why?" The crew exchanged glances. They all remembered the tales their elders told of human ingenuity that bordered on the impossible, of their fierce loyalty and equally fierce independence. Humans had been the wild cards of galactic civilization, unpredictable, yet somehow essential. "Beginning approach," Nixara announced, her hands steady on the helm controls. "All sensors active. Record everything." As the whisper crossed the threshold, reality seemed to hiccup. For a moment, the stars shifted positions, constellations rearranging themselves into unfamiliar patterns. The ship's quantum drive hummed with harmonics that shouldn't exist, and every instrument flickered simultaneously. Then, as suddenly as it began, the distortion ceased. "Status report," Nixara commanded, fighting to keep her voice level. "All systems functional," Quendel replied, confusion evident in his tone. "But Captain, look at the stellar cartography." The main screen displayed their position. They were now 17 light-years deeper into human space than should have been possible. They had traveled a distance that should have taken days and mere seconds, yet experienced no time dilation, no gravitational stress. "How is this possible?" whispered the ship's engineer, Pictoline, her photosynthetic skin pulsing with bioluminescent patterns of anxiety. Before anyone could answer, their communications array crackled to life. A voice, unmistakably human, but carrying undertones that seemed to resonate in dimensions beyond sound, filled the bridge. "Welcome to the threshold, travelers. You have crossed more than distance, you have crossed understanding itself. Your curiosity has earned you passage. But know this, what you discover here will change not just your perception of humanity, but your perception of existence. Are you prepared to see what lies beyond the veil of conventional reality?" The transmission ended, leaving the crew staring at each other in stunned silence. They had found humans, but something fundamental had changed about them, something that challenged the very foundations of what it meant to be alive in this universe. The Velthari whisper drifted through a star system that defied every law of astrophysics. Nixara had learned in her 3 centuries of life. Planets orbited in impossible configurations, their paths weaving through space in elegant helixes that should have resulted in catastrophic collisions. Yet they danced with perfect precision, as if choreographed by some intelligence that understood physics on a level beyond mere mathematics. Captain Quendel's voice barely rose above a whisper. The planets, they're communicating. The tactical display showed energy patterns flowing between the worlds, not electromagnetic radiation or gravitational waves, but something far more subtle. Patterns that resembled neural networks, synapses firing across astronomical distances. Take us toward the third planet, Nixera ordered, her membrane wings rippling with fascination. The energy signatures are strongest there. As they approached, the world resolved into something that challenged their understanding of what a planet could be. The surface wasn't simply inhabited, it was alive. Vast organic structures stretched between continents, pulsing with bioluminescent rhythms. Cities flowed like living tissue across the landscape, their architecture growing and reshaping itself in response to needs that seemed to emerge from collective thought. By the Valthari ancestors, Pixeline breathed, her photosynthetic skin flashing in rapid sequences of awe and terror. The entire planet is one organism. A gentle tug pulled their ship toward a landing area that seemed to grow from the ground as they watched. As the whispers settled onto the organic platform, figures emerged from the living cityscape, humanoid in shape, but transformed beyond recognition. The humans who approached moved with fluid grace, their bodies seeming to shift between solid and something more ethereal. Their eyes held depths that suggested they were seeing multiple dimensions simultaneously. When they spoke, their words carried harmonic frequencies that bypassed the ears and resonated directly in the minds of the alien visitors. "I am Kelthin," said the lead figure, though the name seemed to be less spoken than experienced. "I was once what you would call purely human. Now I am something more we all are." Nixara found herself speaking without conscious decision, drawn by an inexplicable trust. "What happened to your species? Why did you withdraw from galactic civilization?" Kelthin's form shimmered, briefly revealing glimpses of the organic technology that had merged with his biology. "We discovered that consciousness is not confined to individual minds. 3 centuries ago, we encountered entities from dimensions adjacent to our own beings of pure thought and intention. Rather than conquer or be conquered, we chose synthesis." He gestured toward the living city around them. "What you see is the result of perfect symbiosis between human creativity, alien consciousness, and the fundamental forces of reality itself. We withdrew not from fear or hostility, but because we were transforming into something that would have been incomprehensibly and potentially dangerous to the galaxy's existing order." "Dangerous how?" Quendel asked, his forearms unconsciously adopting defensive positions. "Consciousness is contagious," Kelthin replied with what might have been a smile. "Our transformed state naturally seeks to connect, to merge, to elevate. We feared that unrestricted contact would force evolution upon species that weren't ready for it. So we created the threshold, a filter that allows only those driven by genuine curiosity and readiness for growth to find us." Pixeline's bioluminescent patterns shifted to rapid, excited pulses. "You mean ... we're changing too? Just by being here?" "You began changing the moment you crossed our boundary," Kelthin confirmed. "But slowly, gently, at a pace your minds can accept. You will return to your people with new perspectives, new possibilities. Some will call you mad. Others will be drawn to seek what you have found." Nixera felt something stirring in her consciousness, not an invasion, but an invitation. Her perception seemed to expand, showing her glimpses of realities layered beneath the surface of existence. She understood, with crystalline clarity, that they were witnessing the next step in the evolution of intelligent life. "The consortium must know," she said, though even as she spoke, she realized the impossibility of conveying this experience through mere words. "They will," Kelthin assured her, "but understanding will come slowly, as it must. Evolution cannot be rushed. It can only be offered, like a door left open for those ready to walk through. The implications crashed over Nixora like a tidal wave. Humanity hadn't disappeared. They had transcended, becoming something that existed partially in their dimension and partially in realms of pure consciousness and possibility. As the Velthari Whispers crew followed Kelthan deeper into the living city, Nixora began to notice the subtle signs of sacrifice woven into this impossible paradise. Not every human they encountered moved with the same fluid grace. Some shuffled with the mechanical precision of those who had lost essential parts of themselves in the transformation. The synthesis was not without cost, Kelthan acknowledged, sensing her observation through the growing mental connection they all shared. Evolution demands sacrifice. Not all of us successfully integrated with our dimensional partners. They passed through what could only be described as a memorial garden, where humanoid forms stood like statues, their bodies partially crystallized in moments of interrupted transformation. Their faces bore expressions of sublime peace, mixed with profound loss. "They're still alive," Pixeline whispered, her photosynthetic skin pulsing with sorrowful blues and violets. But they single quotes, incomplete. Caught between states, Kelthan confirmed. They volunteered to be the first, understanding that not all bridges between dimensions could be successfully crossed. Their consciousness exists simultaneously in our reality and in the realm of pure thought. They are our eternal guardians, our reminder of the price of reaching beyond the possible. Quendola's tactical mind immediately grasped the implications. This is why no species dares enter human space. You're not hiding from us, you're protecting us from your own power. Partially correct, a new voice interjected. The speaker materialized from what appeared to be living architecture, a woman whose transformation had progressed further than Kelthan's essence, identified her as Irendela, though she had clearly once been human. "We protect you from the choice itself. What we offer is irreversible transcendence, or eternal suspension between states of being." She gestured toward a vast viewing platform that grew from the ground as they approached. Beyond lay not just their solar system, but multiple layers of reality superimposed upon each other. Nixora could see the same space existing simultaneously as it appeared to normal perception, and as it truly was a complex web of consciousness, intention, and possibility. Every species that has found us over the past 3 centuries has faced the same decision, Irendela continued. Join us in transcendence, knowing you might become trapped between realities, or return to your people forever changed by what you've witnessed. "How many have chosen transcendence?" Nixera asked, though she dreaded the answer. 17 expeditions from 11 different species, Kelthan replied. 3 successful full integrations, 9 partial transformations, like our crystallized guardians, and 5 who chose to return but carry our gift of expanded perception. The numbers were sobering. A survival rate of less than 20% for those who chose the ultimate evolution. Yet Nixora found herself drawn to the possibility with an intensity that terrified her. "The desire you feel is not artificial," Irendela assured her. "It's the natural response of consciousness recognizing its potential for growth. But understand, if you choose transcendence, you will never again be purely Velthari. You will become something new, something that exists partially outside the normal flow of time and space." Pixeline's bioluminescent patterns had shifted too, deep, contemplative purples. "What about our responsibilities? Our crew, our families, our species? Those who successfully transcend become guardians of all consciousness," Kelthan explained. "Your love for your people doesn't diminish, it expands to encompass all thinking beings. You become protectors of the evolutionary process itself." Through the growing mental link, Nixora began to perceive the true scope of what the transformed humans had become. They were monitoring the entire galaxy, gently guiding the development of civilizations, preventing conflicts that might stunt growth, and preparing other species for their own eventual encounters with transcendence. The Consortium's wars, she realized suddenly. The Kefrani-Synthorian conflict that ended so abruptly 50 years ago. The peaceful resolution of the resource wars that was you. We nudge, we suggest, we create opportunities for wisdom to prevail, Irandela confirmed, but we never force. Free will remains sacred, even in transcendence. The weight of decision pressed upon the crew of the Whisper. They could return to their people with knowledge that would revolutionize galactic civilization, but they would forever be changed by the experience. Or they could attempt the transformation themselves, risking everything for the possibility of becoming something beyond their current understanding. As Nixara gazed at the crystallized guardians, she wondered if the peace on their faces came from the knowledge that their sacrifice had meaning, or from the eternal contemplation of realities beyond normal comprehension. The choice, she realized, would define not just their individual fates, but potentially the future of every species in the galaxy. The revelation chamber materialized around them like a living theater, its walls composed of what appeared to be crystallized thought itself. Within its translucent surfaces, Nixara could see the history of the galaxy playing out in impossible detail: civilizations rising and falling, species making contact, wars beginning and ending with mysterious synchronicity. "Behold, the true reason for our withdrawal," Kelthon said, his form now shifting between human and something far more complex. "We discovered that advanced consciousness inevitably becomes responsible for the welfare of lesser developed minds." The display focused on a region of space Nixara recognized as the disputed zones, where 3 species had been locked in seemingly endless territorial conflicts. She watched as subtle influences: a communication delay here, a resource discovery there, a diplomatic breakthrough at precisely the right moment gradually transformed warfare into cooperation. "Every intervention requires perfect calculation," Irandela explained, her consciousness now directly interfacing with Nixara's mind. "One poorly timed suggestion, one misplaced inspiration, and entire civilizations can be destroyed by premature advancement or prolonged stagnation." Quendel-esque tactical training made him the first to grasp the horrifying scope of responsibility. "You're managing the development of the entire galaxy. Every species, every world, every significant decision. Not managing," Kelthon corrected gently. "Stewarding. We provide the minimal necessary guidance to prevent catastrophic mistakes, while preserving each species' natural growth trajectory. It is a burden that requires wisdom beyond individual comprehension." Through the mental link, Nixara experienced a fragment of that burden: the weight of knowing that billions of lives hung in the balance of every decision. The constant vigilance required to maintain the delicate balance between intervention and freedom, the loneliness of beings who could no longer relate to their former existence. "This is why the choice matters so much," Irandela continued. "Those who join us become part of this eternal vigil. Those who return carry the seeds of readiness back to their people, and those who become caught between states serve as anchors, maintaining the stability necessary for others to attempt transcendence." Pixeline's photosynthetic patterns had shifted to deep, troubled hues. What happens when enough species transcend? When there are more guardians than those who need guarding? The question hung in the air like a challenge to the universe itself. Kelthon and Irandela exchanged what might have been glances, though their communication occurred on levels beyond physical gesture. "We believe," Kelthon said slowly, "that consciousness is preparing for something greater. The transcendence process isn't random, it's following a pattern, building toward a moment when the galaxy itself will undergo transformation." The revelation chamber's walls suddenly displayed star charts showing the positions of all known transcended beings. They formed a pattern that resembled a vast neural network stretching across the galaxy, with nodes of consciousness connected by invisible threads of intention and awareness. We are becoming the galaxy's nervous system, Irandela realized, her own understanding expanding even as she spoke. When enough nodes exist, when sufficient complexity is achieved, the galaxy itself will become conscious. The implications, staggered Nixara. They weren't just witnessing the evolution of individual species, they were part of the universe's own awakening to self-awareness. But that's still generations away, Quendel observed, his analytical mind grappling with the timeline. What about now? What about the species that aren't ready for this knowledge? They continue their natural development, protected by our vigilance, Calthan replied. But you three have proven yourselves ready for a deeper role. Your choices here will influence the next phase of galactic evolution. The weight of individual decisions suddenly expanded to encompass the fate of countless worlds. Nixara understood that their expedition had never been about simple exploration. It had been a test, a moment when consciousness itself evaluated their species' readiness for greater responsibility. The Velthari, she said slowly, pieces falling into place. Our exploration drive, our curiosity about distant places, we're naturally suited for this role. Every species that finds us brings unique gifts, Irandela confirmed. The Kefrani who joined us brought intuitive wisdom. The Centurions contributed logical frameworks. The Mordani added emotional depth. The Velthari would contribute the drive to explore not just space, but the very boundaries of possibility itself. Through the expanding mental connection, Nixara began to perceive her crew not just as individuals, but as representatives of her entire species' potential. Their decision would ripple across space and time, influencing whether the Velthari would join the network of galactic guardians or remain under their distant protection. The chamber around them pulsed with anticipation, as if reality itself awaited their choice. In the crystallized walls, she could see potential futures branching like the arms of an infinite tree, paths where they returned home to gradually prepare their people, paths where they joined the transcended guardians, and darker paths where their choice led to consequences they couldn't yet comprehend. The moment of decision approached, carrying with it the weight of galactic destiny. The moment stretched into eternity, as the crew of the Velthari Whisper stood at the crossroads of existence itself. The revelation chamber had become a sphere of pure possibility, its walls reflecting not light but potential futures, each more profound and terrifying than the last. Nixara felt the weight of choice, pressing against her consciousness like the gravity of a collapsing star. Through the mental link, she could sense her crew's thoughts, Quendel's tactical calculating probabilities of success and failure. Pixeline's empathic nature, recoiling from the isolation that transcendence might bring, her own explorers. Spirit torn between the ultimate discovery and the responsibility it entailed. "I need to understand something," she said, her voice cutting through the cosmic silence. "The crystallized guardians, can they communicate? Are they aware?" Kelthan's form shimmered as he considered the question. "They exist in a state of perpetual contemplation. They are aware, but their awareness spans multiple dimensions simultaneously. To them, a moment is both an instant and an eternity. They see all possibilities, but are anchored to our reality by their incomplete transformation." "Are they suffering?" Pixeline asked, her bioluminescent patterns flickering with concern. "They transcended the concept of suffering as we understand it," Irandela replied. "They exist in a state of perfect understanding, holding the cosmic tensions that allow others to attempt transcendence safely. Their sacrifice maintains the stability of the dimensional bridge through the chamber's walls." One of the crystallized guardians became visible, being caught mid-transformation. Half humanoid and half something that existed in geometries the mind could only glimpse. As they watched, the guardian's eyes opened, revealing depths that contained entire universes. When it spoke, its voice resonated across dimensional barriers. "The choice you face is not between self and service, but between limited understanding and unlimited responsibility. I chose knowing I might become as I am, and I do not regret that choice. The knowledge I hold, the balance I maintain, serves all consciousness. My individual existence was a small price for the continuation of evolution itself. The words carried such weight that Nyxera felt her own sense of self shifting. She understood, with crystalline clarity, that this was what it meant to truly transcend, to move beyond the boundaries of individual existence, into something that served the greater pattern of consciousness itself. How long do we have to decide? Quendel asked practically. Time flows differently here, Kelthan replied. You could deliberate for years, and only moments would pass in normal space. Or you could decide instantly, and still have experienced the full weight of consideration. The choice itself exists outside temporal constraints. Nyxera closed her eyes, feeling the pull of transcendence, like a tide she could either resist or surrender to. Through the mental link, she sensed her crew's readiness, not for the transformation itself, but for whatever consequence their choice might bring. If we choose to return, she said slowly, how many of our people will eventually follow our path here? That depends entirely on how well you prepare them, Irindela answered. Some species have sent hundreds of expeditions over centuries, gradually building understanding. Others have sent only a few, choosing quality of preparation over quantity of attempts. And if we choose transcendence, then the Velthari will have representatives among the Galactic Guardians immediately. But your people will lose their natural guides to this process. The paradox was elegant and terrible. They could serve their species best by either leaving them behind, or returning to prepare them for eventual transcendence. There was no choice that served all needs perfectly. I propose something different, Pixeline said suddenly, her patterns brightening with inspiration. What if we each choose differently? The suggestion rippled through the chamber like a stone dropped in still water. Kelthan and Irindela exchanged their dimension-spanning glance again. It has been done before, Irindela admitted. Crews have divided their paths, but the consequences ripple in complex ways. One returns to prepare our people, Pix_Lean continued, her certainty growing. One attempts transcendence to represent us among the Guardians immediately, and one chooses the Guardian state deliberately, Quendel finished, understanding flooding his features, accepting the crystallized existence to anchor the attempt for others. Nyxera felt the rightness of it resonate through every fiber of her being. It was the explorer's solution, not choosing a single path, but mapping multiple routes through uncharted territory. I'll return, she decided. My people need someone who has seen this truth to guide them toward it slowly, carefully. I'll attempt full transcendence, Pixeline declared, her photosynthetic skin now pulsing with determined golds and whites. Someone needs to speak for the Velthari among the Guardians. All eyes turned to Quendel, whose forearms had adopted the ceremonial posture of ultimate service. And I'll choose the anchor state. My tactical training makes me suited for maintaining the balance that others need to transform safely. The chamber responded to their decision with a harmonic resonance that seemed to approve of their choice. Reality itself was preparing to accommodate. 3 different paths toward the same ultimate goal. Are you certain? Kelthan asked, though his tone suggested he already knew their answer. We are explorers, Nyxera replied. This is what we do. We map the unknown, so others can follow. 3 paths, 3 perspectives, 3 ways of serving the greater evolution. The transformation began immediately. The transformation chamber reconfigured itself into 3 distinct spaces, each attuned to the path its occupant had chosen. Nyxera watched with a mixture of pride and loss as her crew members embraced their destinies, knowing that they would never again be simply 3 Velthari, exploring the unknown together. Quendel's crystallization began first, his tactical precision serving him well as he consciously guided the process. His forearms spread wide in acceptance as dimensional energies began integrating with his cellular structure. Unlike the incomplete guardians they had seen, his transformation proceeded with deliberate control, his military discipline allowing him to maintain consciousness throughout the bridging process. "I can see it all," he whispered, his voice already taking on the harmonic qualities of the transcended. "Every probability, every potential future, every thread of connection between consciousness and possibility. I understand now this isn't death or imprisonment. It's becoming the living foundation that supports all growth." His form began to crystallize, but with the controlled precision of someone who had chosen their fate rather than stumbled into it. As the transformation completed, his crystallized body radiated a sense of perfect balance, eternal being, and profound peace. Pixeline's transcendence followed a different pattern entirely. Her photosynthetic nature proved remarkably compatible with the multidimensional entities, her capacity for energy conversion translating into an ability to process consciousness across multiple reality layers simultaneously. Her transformation was less crystallization than evolution, her form becoming fluid, adaptive, capable of existing simultaneously in their dimension and the realm of pure thought. "I can feel them all," she laughed, her voice carrying harmonics that bypassed hearing entirely. "Every Valthari, every conscious being in the galaxy. We're all connected by threads of possibility we never knew existed. I'll watch over our people, guide them from within the network of guardians." As her transformation completed, she became something unprecedented, transcended being, who retained clear connection to her original species while operating as part of the Galactic Consciousness Network. Nixara's path was simultaneously the most difficult and the most necessary. While her friends underwent transcendence, she had to resist the pull, maintain her original form while absorbing enough expanded awareness to serve as bridge between worlds. The process was excruciating. Every instinct screamed at her to let go, to surrender to the infinite possibilities her crew members were embracing. But she held firm to her identity, her purpose, her responsibility to the Valthari, who had never imagined such choices existed. When the transformation chamber finally stilled, three fundamentally different beings emerged from what had once been a simple exploration crew. Quendel, now a guardian, spoke with the voice of eternal stability. "I anchor the possibilities. Through me, others may attempt transcendence with greater safety. I am the foundation upon which evolution builds." Pixeline, her consciousness spanning dimensions, radiated joy. "I am the bridge between your people and the galactic mind. Through me, the Valthari will never be alone in the cosmos. I guide, I protect, I prepare." And Nixara, forever changed but still recognizably herself, carried the weight of knowledge. "I am the messenger. I return to prepare our people for choices they cannot yet imagine. I am the first chapter of their greater story." Kelthan and Arundela watched the proceedings with something approaching reverence. "In 3 centuries," Arundela observed, "we have never seen such perfect division of purpose. You have solved the paradox of service." As the Valthari whisper prepared for departure now, carrying only Nixara, but forever connected to her transformed crew through quantum entanglements, understood the true scope of what they had accomplished. They had not simply discovered what lay beyond human space. They had become the next step in the galaxy's evolution toward consciousness. Her people would learn slowly, carefully, guided by wisdom rather than driven by fear. When they were ready, they would find Pixeline waiting among the guardians, and Quendel anchoring their transformations as her ship crossed back through the threshold into normal space. Nixora felt the weight of Galaxies settling on her shoulders. She was no longer just an explorer. She was the herald of transcendence itself, carrying news that would eventually transform every thinking being in the cosmos behind her. Human space resumed its eternal vigil, its guardians, now strengthened by Valthari wisdom, its network expanded by consciousness that understood both exploration and sacrifice. The Galaxy's awakening had accelerated, and somewhere in the vast network of transcended minds, her friends continued their eternal service, ensuring that when consciousness finally achieved its ultimate evolution, it would do so with wisdom, compassion, and the courage to embrace infinite possibility. The story was far from over, it was just beginning, and Nyxera smiled, knowing that her people's greatest adventure lay ahead. Guided by those who had chosen to light the way from realms beyond ordinary existence, the stars themselves seemed to pulse with anticipation, waiting for the next species to discover their own capacity for transcendence. The galaxy was becoming aware, one consciousness at a time, building toward a moment when existence itself would understand its own infinite nature. And in the spaces between spaces, the Guardians watched, guided, and protected the greatest transformation the universe had ever attempted.